Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. I'm gonna do another video for the Analyze Your Own Swing series. So today I'm gonna go over how the backswing can influence the downswing. Okay, so I'm gonna go over what we did with my client Austin here, what we did in the backswing to help him change his downswing from being outside in to inside out, and to improve his contact immensely. A lot of you guys who watch my videos already know I'm very big on backswing. It's almost like I repeat myself a lot about the backswing. The reason is backswing is a lot easier to change than a downswing. A lot of the times a poor downswing is the result or a reaction of a poor backswing. So if you work on the backswing, your downswing would slowly get better. I'm not saying it's the be-all end-all, but for a lot of people who practice, who might only practice once a week, I suggest working on your backswing first. Don't try to fix your over the top from a not so good backswing position. Try to improve the backswing first, and then your over the top may disappear, or even if it doesn't, it will be much easier to fix your over the top from a better backswing spot. So with that in mind, we're going to look at what Austin is doing. So his starting 7-iron numbers are 106 ball speed, 85 club speed. So that's a pretty low ball speed to club speed ratio, and that's because of how he makes his downswing, which is 7.5 degrees down angle of attack and 2.4 degrees inside out. So sorry, outside in, I should say. So what he does is, with a 106 ball speed to 85 club ratio, his efficiency is 1.25, which is really low for a 7-iron, especially if he's using Callaway Apexes, if I remember correctly. I would be really looking at mid 3s as an efficiency for a 7-iron. So all things being equal, 85 club speed times 1.35, he's really looking at 114, 115 ball speed, which he's leaving basically 10 miles off the table because of that. So I'm going to show you his swing first at normal speed. And you can see playing at a normal speed, it doesn't look too bad, but he shanked that one actually, and I'm going to show you why. Face on view, again, not too bad. I should have trimmed this video a little bit. Not sure why that video is in slow speed, but you can see it doesn't really look that bad either. But a couple bad things we're going to go over. So 7.5 degrees way too down with a 7-iron, especially at 85 club speed. 2.5 outside in, really poor efficiency, because when he makes his downswing, you can see he's actually steep here, tries to shallow it out, but the club gets thrown outside his hands. Okay, so when the club gets thrown outside your hands, the hosel moves closer to the ball, and you can see the hosel hits the ball right there. Ball scoots off to the right. So if you're someone that's trying to be more inside out, you have to make sure that the club is traveling more from behind you. Okay, kind of where the yellow line is, and you can see with Austin, the club is trying to go to the yellow, but you can still see the club is quite steep there. Okay, that's a little bit too steep for my liking. For most players, stays steep. It stays over his right forearm. So usually, better players, the shaft would start eventually matching up with the forearm. Still no matching up right now as he continues. Finally matches up later on, only to have it get thrown out very early. And from here, you're going to be outside in. If you're coming in from this position, club outside your hands, you're probably going to be outside in. Ideally, it's coming from more behind you. Maybe not at that angle, but more behind you. And I'll show you it later when we see the changes. So, I mentioned in this video, we're going to talk about how the backswing influences the downswing, okay? So, what I didn't like to start with Austin's swing was, you can see his head moves. Oh, my video moved to, my camera moved to. But you can see if Austin's head is somewhere there. You can see it kind of drifts down and towards the ball. Okay, I know my camera moved, but it's pretty apparent that his head lowers and moves towards the ball. that's a sign of you going to your toes. If you go into your toes, you're not going to rotate properly. If you don't rotate properly, you're probably going to be outside in, or you tilt back and you're going to be inside out, but that's not the way to be inside out. So that's one. Number two issue is because when he makes his backswing, doesn't look too bad. Club goes through hands, shaft nice and steep, but he lifts and folds too much. So at the very top, he has minimal depth. His hands are on top of his shoulders, and you don't see much club, okay? So, and his wrist is also a little bit cupped there, which I don't like. I like the wrist being flat. I want to be able to see some club, as I've talked about before, for most amateur players. From the face-on view, ball position is a little bit too far back with a 7-iron. I like it kind of just left of middle. He's a little bit just right of middle. So he's basically one ball position right of middle. I like one ball position left of middle as a rough guideline. So when he makes his backswing, doesn't look too bad. Pretty center turn. I don't mind that at all. Downswing slides a little bit because he has to try to save it because he's so steep. And then he keeps his head down for a long time. So classic player trying to keep your head down. Do not keep your head down. If you keep your head down, it's going to restrict your movement. It's a lot of bad things happen from keeping your head down. No good comes from keeping your head down through the ball. So never keep your head down, please. So you can see Austin is keeping his head down really, really long, to artificially actually. And then he comes up after. I hate keeping your head down. It stalls you from rotation. It does some weird, funky things. Don't keep your head down. So what we did first to start was help him fix his backswing. So I had him map out his backswing. So actually, I'm going to put the old video back on the left. I'm going to put the drill we did on the right. So with Austin, I asked him to not forearm rotate, and I asked him to right wrist spin. So you can see from there at shaft parallel. Oh, I also asked him to stay more in his heels and in his setup as well. So there we go. So when we go to shaft parallel, Austin's not too bad, but his wrist gets a little bit cupped early, as you guys can see right there. I don't really like that. You can see on this video on the right, his wrist is actually way more flat to slightly bowed, which I like. Toe of the club facing more 1030. Austin on the left, original video is more at like 11:30, almost 12 o'clock, so a little bit too open for my liking. So that's number one. I like the club to be a little bit more square to closed. Backswing with square to closed face is always, I mean, not always, but usually better for most players than being open. So as we continue, I had him maintain his no form rotation. He form rotates a little bit too much, so shaft is a little bit shallower than I would like, but that's not too big of an issue this early into the process. I'm more worried about how his hand path is. So as he continues to arm parallel, you can see left arm parallel to the ground. You can see his hands are getting a little bit deeper. Okay, hands are starting to pass his shoulders a bit compared to on the left. His hands are still in line with his shoulders. And as he continues to work it up, I had him continue to turn and stretch his hands up and back. So at the top of a backswing, you can see, again, his hands are just pretty much still on top of his shoulders compared to the video on the right. Hands are way behind his shoulder. Left wrist is way flatter compared to the cupped left wrist we talked about on the left. And we can actually see club at the top with square to close club face. You can't really see the club on the video on the left. It was actually a little bit open when I watched. And his right forearm position is also 90 degrees to the ground roughly, compared to him on the left is roughly 70 degrees to the ground. So my previous video I've mentioned I like the right forearm being roughly 90 degrees to the ground if possible, just as a rough guideline, and with good width and depth. So way different backswing positions with the drill and the starting swing on the left. So from there, because you can see he's way more wide in depth and everything, way more turn. You can see his butt as he's sat back in his right glutes a little bit better. He's loaded the right. From there, much easier for him to come down and have the club stay behind him. So you can see his club and arm actually matches up compared to on the video on the left. It never really matches up. Okay, and then as you continue, you can see the club gets thrown out. Video on the left, you can see the club tracks his right forearm really for a long period of time. Actually, you can see the club never gets thrown out. Club is still under the hands. You can see the club is traveling from behind and under the hands, which is why he's able to be more inside out. Contact was poor because we were just focusing on drills. And in video on the left, you can see the club tracks outside the ball, shanks it left. When we watch the face-on view, you can see I have him map it out. Move this ball position up a little bit as well on the right, as you can see. So on the video on the left, ball position right in the middle. Video on the right, pretty much in middle. I would still like him to be a little bit more left of middle. So when we make his backswing, you can see Austin's actually a little bit more turned here, which is nice to see. A little bit more width there, which I like. All good stuff. Left wrist is, you can see the left wrist is way flatter on the video on the right compared to the video on the left is a little bit more cupped, because we can see the glove logo is pointing more at us. On the left, glove logo faces more away from us in that direction on the right. So all things that will help you make a more inside out downswing. Again, close to square face is better. Open face is not so good for most players. And then from there, well, he just continues with the drill. Not bad actually. So this is the one that he actually hit pretty good. So I had him turn and stretch it up to the top, and that helped him keep the club head more behind him on the downswing. So from here, I had him no forearm roll with right wristband as he turns and stretch it. Keep it behind, really get there. So it becomes more apparent what he's doing in the third video here, where he's starting to piece it together. So nice backswing. You can see, whoops, that's the wrong, that's not the one I want you guys to see first. So you guys can see with Austin on the left here, I had him piece it together. Nice push draw here, really nice push draw. And again, you guys can only be hitting push draws if you're inside out, okay? So I had Austin here progress to blending things together, where he hands in, right wristband, toe is still facing roughly 10:30, 11 o'clock, which I like. Continues to turn and stretch it back. You can see nice width, still roughly 90 degrees. Arm covers the shoulder, so it's high enough. Hands are behind the shoulders, which is good. Club still faces behind, which is good. And then from there, he paused for a little bit, and then you can see the club really traveling behind him, behind his hands, and then under his hands. You can see as he comes down, club shallows out, matches up his right forearm nicely, and it continues to work. The club is here right now, continues to work behind and low to really exaggerate the inside out, which I really like. So you can see I didn't ask him to do any downswing stuff this lesson. All I had him fix was the changes the backswing, and as a reaction to how he makes his backswing, the downswing reacted accordingly, which helped him be more inside out. The hand path was really important, making sure it goes in first, making sure he got the hand, making sure he went the hands in and deep. That really helped things react nicely in the downswing to be more roughly 5 degrees inside out. Video on the right, the face-on video. Really nice there. You can see really nice. Really like that. So the more obvious thing is in a downswing at this point. So when you're working on a backswing, it's really important to just note for now that when you turn, you got a nice full turn into the inside right heel. I'm asking him to shift off the ball a little bit, giving him a little bit more freedom. He was trying to keep his head steady, and a lot of times when people keep their head steady, they actually don't keep it steady, or it restricts their movement too much. So I actually encourage a little bit of movement, a little bit of shift off the ball. Chances are their head will still be pretty steady, but gives them a little bit more freedom, a little bit more turn, and it helps them react more athletically in the downswing, which usually helps them make a better move at it, which actually usually ups the speed and decreases the outside in. So if you watch the video on the right here where we kind of ended off the lesson, I'm going to put the first original video back on the left. You can see on the right, way different transition. So you can see steep transition here on the left. I mean steep back, I mean not so good backswing. So again, narrow, no depth, too much hinge, cup wrist, causing the shaft to be very, very steep early in transition. Video on the right here, okay, you can see way different. More hands more deep and arms more wide, club more square to close. Helps them lead into way more shallow. You can see how early that club shallowed out here. As I play this frame by frame for you guys, you can see the club is shallowing out, matching up the forearm. Club is traveling more down and back of the hands, which I like. And he's able to hit another nice push draw. So really a key checkpoint for you guys to make sure you're inside out is that shaft is make sure around arm parallel to the ground, and the downswing club is way behind you. I really like club and forearm and club matching up or being a little bit under. If you're an outside in player, exaggerate to be more under, to be more inside out. And then make sure the club at this point, a shaft parallel, the club is more inside the hands as opposed to being outside the hands on the right here, okay? So those are some big keys, and you can see, play one more time for you guys. Video on the left is the original, really steep. Video on the right is at the end of the lesson. Love that nice, subtle, shallow and transition move. And again, all of this is done by just the backswing. We didn't talk about downswing at all, so that was just only one lesson. So really focus on backswings if you want to change the downswing. At the end of that lesson, he was swinging at roughly 90 miles an hour, 120 ball speed. So he gained roughly 5 club speed and 15 ball speed just by changing his backswing alone. So it might not happen for everybody, but usually backswing is a great place to start if you're trying to make some big changes in your swing. Even if you don't have much time to practice, focusing on backswing is extra important because you're going to have more chance of fixing something or improving something by working on the backswing rather than the downswing, because downswing takes more time to work on. And again, it's a reaction to the backswing. So hopefully this video helps. If you want to be inside out, let the hands travel inwards in the backswing. Make sure you have width, make sure with a longer trail arm, make sure you have depth, hands stretched behind you. Make sure you have a flat lead wrist, bent trail wrist as a rear wrist structure. Usually that will promote more square to close club face in your backswing. Square to close club face will encourage more inside out. Open faces will encourage more outside in. Just a general guideline for a lot of amateur players out there. So hopefully that makes sense. Any questions, leave it in the comments below. And hope I didn't ramble too much. But any questions, let me know and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, everybody.